Some mistakes knock once and fade away. Others find their way back, years later, wearing the same eyes you once loved. Ethan stood at the window, the autumn rain smearing the glass like fingerprints of memory. 3 years had passed since Mia left, since she'd called what they had a mistake. He'd rebuilt in silence, learning to live without her voice in the hallway, her laugh in the kitchen. But today, something shattered that silence. A soft knock, then another. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that even their absence felt alive? And what if the past you buried came back, not in her hands, but in the hands of someone small, trembling, and familiar? Ethan opened the door, and there she was. Not Mia, but a child with her eyes. The world tilted. Every truth he thought he knew began to unravel in that single heartbeat. The air hung between them like breath caught in prayer. Ethan asked her name, though he already knew the answer. Lily. Her voice was soft, hesitant, carrying the shape of someone else's truth. She handed him the letter with both hands, eyes fixed on the floor. He could see the same dimple that once appeared when Mia smiled after saying something cruel. He remembered that dimple well. The way it betrayed the pain behind every lie. He sat her on the couch, offered her a towel. The smell of rain and childhood filled the air. The letter stayed unopened on the coffee table like a ticking clock. Every part of him wanted to rip it open. Every part of him feared it. The child watched him in silence, her gaze far older than her years. Sometimes silence says everything. He finally asked the question that had burned since the door opened. Where's your mom? Lily's lips quivered before a whisper escaped. She said you'd help me. The room fell still. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper, like the world holding its breath. Ethan reached for the envelope. His fingers trembled. The paper, crinkled and wet, tore slightly as he lifted the seal. For the first time in 3 years, he heard her voice, not in person, but in the ink that still carried her scent. The world spun again, slower this time, and then just before he read the first word, the camera of life seemed to hold on him, right there, on the edge of truth. The letter began with a lie disguised as love. Ethan, it read, I never meant for you to find out this way. His eyes moved slowly over each word, as if reading them too fast might break something fragile inside him. Mia's handwriting, still careful, still curved in that same quiet grace, spoke of regret and fear. She wrote about choices, about time, about the weight of pretending. But beneath it all was a truth that burned through every line. Lily is yours. Ethan sat frozen. The sound of the rain outside had stopped, replaced by the soft ticking of the wall clock, each second mocking the years he'd lost. He reread it twice, then a third time, as if the ink might rearrange itself and make more sense. Mia wrote that she'd been scared. Scared he'd hate her. Scared he'd reject the child. She said she'd told herself keeping the secret would protect everyone, but secrets don't protect. They rot. Ethan folded the letter carefully, not out of forgiveness, but out of exhaustion. Lily sat quietly on the couch, tracing the edge of her sleeve, watching him like she already knew. He asked her what she remembered. She said you were kind, Lily whispered. She said you used to sing when it rained. Ethan laughed once, the kind of laugh that breaks halfway through and dies in the throat. He hadn't sung in years. The house had forgotten his voice. He wondered what else Mia had told her, what lies she wrapped in love to hide her absence. Outside, the clouds broke open to a pale gray dawn. Ethan moved to the window again, letter still in his hand. He thought about the years stolen by fear and silence. Mia had left without goodbye. Now her words returned like a ghost trying to apologize through paper. He whispered her name once, just to see if it still hurt. It did, but this time the pain came with a strange warmth, like remembering sunlight after winter. He turned to Lily. "You're safe here," he said quietly. She nodded, though he could see the question in her eyes. Safe from what? From who? Ethan didn't know, but he knew one thing. Whatever came next, he wouldn't run from it. The letter had broken something inside him, yes, but it had also opened a door to a new kind of truth. One written not in ink, but in second chances. The sun came out the next morning like it didn't know what had happened. The rain was gone, but its scent still lingered in the grass and on Ethan's sleeves. Lily ate breakfast in silence, her little feet swinging under the table, her spoon clinking softly against the bowl. Ethan watched her, memorizing the way she chewed, the way she looked up before speaking, as if asking permission to exist. Then the phone rang. He hadn't heard that number in 3 years. Mia's voice trembled through the static, fragile and uneven. Ethan, I didn't think she'd find you. Mia's voice carried across the years, soft yet broken. She said she'd tried to tell him so many times but couldn't face the ruin that truth would bring. She said she'd made mistakes, but none greater than leaving him out of Lily's life. Ethan listened without speaking, his hand gripping the edge of the table. Forgiveness wasn't a word he knew how to pronounce anymore. When she paused, he said only, "She's safe. That's all that matters." Then he hung up. That night, Ethan dreamed of their last fight, of Mia standing by the doorway with a suitcase half-zipped, tears she never let fall. He remembered shouting things meant to wound, not heal. Remembered her whispering, "You'll thank me one day." Now he understood what she meant. She was already carrying Lily. Regret washed over him like cold tide water, the kind that stings before it numbs. The next afternoon, a knock startled them again. This time it wasn't a ghost. It was real. On the porch stood Mia, her hair shorter, her eyes tired, but still carrying that same wild light. Lily ran to the door before Ethan could stop her. For a heartbeat, Mia froze. Then she dropped to her knees, arms open, voice trembling as she said, "Hi, baby." The world seemed to tilt again. Two lives once broken, now colliding under the same roof they'd both left behind. Silence filled the living room where once laughter lived. Mia stood near the window, unsure whether to sit or run. Ethan leaned against the wall, arms folded, heart pounding. She looked at him and said, "I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love you right." He didn't answer. Words felt useless in the face of years. Instead, he looked at Lily, her small hands resting on both their knees, like she was trying to stitch the world back together. Night came heavy and uninvited. The three of them sat in the same house that once held dreams, now filled with ghosts wearing familiar faces. Ethan poured tea just to keep his hands busy. Mia's gaze followed the steam rising from her cup like it might carry her words for her. Finally, she spoke. "I thought I was protecting you," she said, her voice shaking, "but I was really just protecting myself." The sentence cracked the air between them, sharp as lightning in still skies. Ethan didn't look up. He just whispered, "You took 3 years from me, Mia." 3 years from her. The sound of his voice made her flinch, but she didn't turn away this time. Mia looked down at her hands, trembling slightly. "I was afraid you'd hate me if you knew," she said. "I didn't even hate you when you left," Ethan replied quietly. "I hated myself for letting you." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything they hadn't said when they still had time. Lily slept upstairs, safe from the storm below, unaware that her parents were trying to learn how to speak again. Mia's eyes found the letter lying beside them. "I wrote that 100 times before I sent it," she said. "Every version ended with me begging for forgiveness. But I never expected you to open the door." Ethan's face softened, not in forgiveness but in understanding. "You ran from love," he said, "and I let you go because I thought I was too broken to chase you." The room pulsed with the ache of two people, realizing they'd both been right and wrong at the same time. Later that night, Mia walked through each room as though retracing a life she'd abandoned. The hallway still smelled faintly of paint they'd chosen together. She paused at the photo on the mantel. Ethan and her, smiling in a summer that felt like forever ago. Her fingers hovered just above the frame, afraid to touch it, afraid it might crumble. "Do you still remember that day?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "I remember the light," he said. "It felt like forgiveness before we ever needed it." Before midnight, Mia stood by the door with her coat on. "I should go," she said. "You don't have to," Ethan replied, his voice steady but tender. She looked back, half hope, half fear in her eyes. "I can't stay tonight." "But maybe tomorrow?" He nodded. "Tomorrow," he echoed, the word carrying both promise and hesitation. As the door closed behind her, Ethan exhaled deeply, half relief, half ache. "Upstairs," Lily murmured in her sleep. He looked up toward her room and whispered, "Tomorrow." Morning arrived with a silence so thick it hummed. Ethan made pancakes for Lily, though he burned the first 3. She laughed, a small, bright sound that cracked open the heaviness in the air. When she asked, "Is Mom coming back today?" he hesitated before answering. She said she would, but his voice betrayed the doubt he couldn't hide. The house had been empty before. Now it waited, alive, with uncertainty. Every sound, every creak in the floorboards felt like a promise that might never be kept. Ethan took Lily to the park that afternoon. The sky was open, pale, almost too calm. He pushed her on the swing, and her laughter echoed through the empty air, colliding with echoes of memories. Of Mia, running barefoot through that same grass years ago. He wondered how something so small could sound like healing. He wondered if he even deserved it. "Higher, Daddy," Lily shouted. And for the first time in years, the word didn't hurt. Back home, an envelope waited on the porch. No return address. Ethan knew her handwriting instantly. Inside was a single photograph. Mia standing by the ocean with Lily's same smile. On the back, 5 words, "I'm trying to be better." He closed his eyes, holding the picture like it was proof that some hearts still tried, even after breaking. For a long moment, he stood there between the past and the future, realizing they both looked the same, just tides changing direction. That night, Lily drew 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small, holding hands under a yellow sun. She taped it to the fridge and smiled. "Now we're together again," she said. Ethan stared at it long after she went to bed. The picture was crooked, childish, uneven, but it held something he hadn't dared to believe in. Hope, simple and honest. Sometimes the truest art comes from hands that don't yet understand pain. As midnight crept closer, Ethan stood outside under the porch light, the photograph of Mia still in his pocket. The rain had stopped, but the air carried the weight of something unfinished. He looked up at the clouds and whispered, "Come back when you're ready." The wind didn't answer, but it moved gently through the trees, almost like a nod. Inside, Lily's laughter from earlier replayed in his mind. Light, untamed, free. For the first time, he realized healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant learning to breathe between the memories. A week passed before Mia returned. The air was cold but clear, the sky stretching pale blue across the quiet street. Ethan saw her car pull up from the kitchen window, his pulse quickening with a strange blend of fear and calm. Lily ran out before he could stop her, arms wide, laughter echoing down the drive. Mia knelt, catching her in an embrace that seemed to rewrite 3 years of distance in a single heartbeat. Ethan stepped outside, not as the man she left, but as the man who had learned how to stay. They talked on the porch while Lily played with a small plastic horse in the yard. No shouting this time, no old ghosts to resurrect. Mia spoke quietly, her words careful. Raw. "I didn't come back to fix everything," she said. "I came back because she deserves both of us." Ethan nodded, his eyes softening. "Maybe," he said, "we all do." The wind stirred again, lifting a strand of her hair, and for the first time, he smiled without pain. They took Lily to the beach the next day. The same place where that photograph had been taken. Waves broke softly against the sand, gulls cried overhead, and the world seemed too wide for grudges. Lily ran ahead, her laughter lost in the wind. Mia walked beside Ethan in silence, their footprints forming twin paths that met and parted with the tide. "Do you ever think we could start again?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the sea and said, "We already are." That evening, back home, Lily fell asleep on the couch between them, one small hand resting on each of theirs. Neither spoke. The television played softly, some old movie flickering across the room. Ethan glanced at Mia and whispered, "She has your eyes." Mia smiled faintly. "She has your heart." The simplicity of it broke something open inside him. Not pain this time, but release. The years between them began to fold, layer by layer, like pages turning toward forgiveness. When Mia finally stood to leave, Ethan walked her to the door. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he said. "Just know you have a place here, if you want it." She turned, eyes shining in the soft light. "It feels different now," she said. "It is," he replied. Outside, the wind carried the smell of wet earth and new beginnings. As the door closed behind her, Ethan looked toward the stairs where Lily slept and whispered, "We're almost home." Dawn arrived soft and forgiving, spilling pale gold across Ethan's walls. The house felt different, lighter, somehow breathing again. He woke to the sound of quiet laughter downstairs. Mia was there, making coffee, her hair tied back just like before. Lily sat at the counter drawing something on a napkin. The smell of cinnamon and morning wrapped the kitchen like an old song finding its way back home. Ethan stood in the doorway watching them, realizing that forgiveness isn't a single word. It's 1,000 small choices to stay. They took a walk together later that morning, hand in hand, through the neighborhood that once held too many ghosts. The trees shimmered with new leaves, sunlight dappling across their faces. Every step felt fragile but real, like walking barefoot on glass that had finally turned to sand. "Do you think people can really start over?" Mia asked. Ethan looked at her, the faintest smile touching his lips. "I think some stories don't end," he said. "They just learn to breathe again." They spent the afternoon in the backyard, building a birdhouse Lily had found in a dusty box. She painted it blue, her favorite color, and giggled when Ethan got paint on his nose. Mia watched them from the porch, smiling through tears she didn't try to hide. For the first time, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was full. Full of everything they'd lost, and everything they were slowly finding again. As dusk settled, they lit a small fire in the backyard. The three of them sat close, the flames flickering against their faces. Mia reached out, her hand finding Ethan's. He didn't pull away. They watched the fire crackle and fade, the smoke drifting upward like all the words they'd once left unsaid. Sometimes healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering without breaking. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Ethan stood by the window. The rain had begun again, gentle and unthreatening. Mia joined him, her reflection beside his in the glass. "You still think it was all a mistake?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "No," she said. "Just the beginning of something we weren't ready for." He smiled, turning toward her. "Maybe now we are." Outside, the rain whispered against the pane, and for the first time in years, it sounded like home.